Hello and welcome to Through the Big Book with Dr. Ben. My name is Ben and I'm an alcoholic. All right, so we have just finished the fifth step and we're going into the sixth step. Now this one is pretty short in the Big Book. I'll try to give a little bit of background from my experience as well and add a little bit from that I pulled from the 12 and 12 just to kind of round it out a little bit. Otherwise, we're only looking at a couple of sentences and moving on. So let's dive right in here. We're on page 75 on the last paragraph, about in the middle there. It says, carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we've omitted anything. So what they mean by that is just the first 5 steps. It says, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk, a free man at last. And these are the pre-6th step or the post-5th step questions, however you want to look at that. It says, is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? So basically, have we been fearless and thorough from the very beginning? That kind of a deal. So if we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable. So as we saw earlier on in how it works, the spiritual principle involved in step 6 is willingness. And so that's why that is coming up again here. And willingness is basically just like the readiness to do something, how prepared and ready you are, how ambitious you are to want to do something. And so we saw all these things in our 4th step that were rooted in selfishness. We saw fear. We saw all these different things that were blocking us off from the sunlight of the Spirit. Resentment, sex problems, things like that. These are all what we're looking at. These are the character defects. Now, in the 12 and 12, Bill, in his essay on the 6th step, talks about the 7 deadly sins, which are pride, lust, envy, gluttony, greed, wrath, and sloth. I think that's the 6th. Yeah, I might have repeated myself. Sorry, I'm not looking at a list or anything here. And that's kind of a helpful thing from his religious point of view, from what I understand. It gives us a generally good template to work from. All of us seem to have those in varying degrees, and they're dynamic. They sometimes will have a lot more anger in a certain chapter in our life, and then maybe the next chapter will have a lot more greed. And so it's not like I'm this kind of person, I'm a greedy type of person, or I'm a prideful person. We're all of those things, just in varying degrees. And so that was kind of helpful to me because this is just so short, It's just because it just goes right into things. Are we now ready to into the next phase? It says, are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we've admitted are objectionable? Can He take them all, every one? And so that includes all of those things. And that is the basis of the 6th step. That is the whole question. Can He now take these things from you? It's just yes or no. There's not like a middle ground. There's in where there is unwillingness. That is where we have the next sentence for. It says, if we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. So we still haven't escaped the prayer work here. We're still going back to prayer work if we don't have the willingness. Like let's say you really like. Let's just go with greed. You really think that you should have more money and more stuff and more in everything. So much to where other people are deprived of their needs so that you can have more excess. That's not okay, right? So that is something that, no matter how deeply rooted I think I need more money and more whatever, I need to ask God to help me be willing to let go of my greed, or maybe it's lust. Maybe you're just not willing to give up lust. Well, here again, we ask God to be willing. or to help us to be willing. God, help me to be willing to let go of my lust. God, help me be willing to let go of my greed, whatever it is. And that's it. And again, those are just examples that I'm pulling from the 12 and 12, which I don't like to reference too often. But, that's the way I did it. And something that helped me out with that, and this is not in the big book, so by all means, if you want to skip this, you can. But this is just what helped me because this was so brief. I am a very visual learner. And so what I saw on mine was I had a bunch of pride. I had a bunch of some other things. There were some that were way out of whack. And far more than others. Like my sloth was low, or my gluttony was low, but my pride was really high, and other. So what I learned was there are these inverse or opposite actions, and this is where you hear people talk about the opposite actions a lot. People apply the opposite action to a lot of different things, but it's most applicable to me here. In the 6th and 7th step area. So what is the opposite of pride? It's humility. What is the opposite of anger? Is patience. Opposite of greed is charity. The opposite of envy is gratitude. The opposite of gluttony is temperance. The opposite of sloth is diligence. I believe that's all of them. Oh, and the opposite of lust is chastity. Yeah. So what I was taught to do is to focus on these opposite actions and doing these opposite actions to give God a little bit of something to work with. I got to show up and put my spiritual shoes on and tie my spiritual shoes if I want to go out for a run. There's a lot that I have control over that I can practically do. If I get upset, I can try to remember, hey, I need to be patient right here. Okay, I need to be patient. God, help me to be patient. Help me to be patient right here, please, God. Help me to be patient. Thank you. That's kind of how it works for me. Or if you're in a lustful situation, if you want to, whatever, God, help me to practice chastity. Help me to practice chastity, God. That's something I do. In this sense, I'm giving him something to work with, and I'm growing toward what I believe what my concept of a higher power shows me to be as a spiritual man, a godly man, a man of God. And these attributes haven't changed over thousands of years. So I'm not trying to recreate the wheel here or come up with something specific for Ben. I'm just kind of trying to fall in line here and follow others. And so when they say chastity, patience, etc. is good, that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm shooting for here. And another thing that I was taught is that we have these, archers would have bullseyes that they would practice on back in the day that had, it has a ring in the middle, a bullseye with a ring or a dot in the middle, and then rings, concentric rings outside of that dot in the middle. And the dot in the middle is, the most points, the bullseye. And so a perfect bullseye is what we're shooting for here. So perfect patience, perfect diligence, perfect, you know what I'm saying, gratitude. When we fall short, just like an archer. So whenever an archer was shooting arrows and it was short of the bullseye, they called it sin. I thought it had something to do with trigonometry or something. That I don't know, like sine, cosine. Y'all remember that? Anyway, it didn't. But anyways, so that helped me to kind of think about, since I had no religious background whatsoever, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on all that, and you can fact check me, that's fine. But that's what I was taught, and that helped me to really visualize what does perfect patience look like. Because I was pissed off. What does perfect humility look like? Again, because I had a lot of arrogance when I came into AA. And so I focused on becoming these things while I asked God to help me make up that difference between, if my arrow is 6 inches off from the bullseye, God, please help me to make up that 6 inches. You know, I still show up to work to do as much of the work as I can. You know, I have faith in God, but I do believe that we need to show up and give him something to work with. So it doesn't say all that in the big book. It's to me, it's kind of implied, but it's also not, you know. So all that stuff is just what's helped me out a lot, and what's helped out a lot of my sponsees to kind of visualize something. But obviously, yes, of course, the tool here is leaning on God, having God take most of this stuff away. But I just don't like to give it, you know, I want to encourage people to do practical things, to show up to work and give him something to work with, because you can get a lot better, a lot faster than that. And that's just my perspective. By all means, you know, if you can say the prayer and be changed in 10 seconds and have one of those burning bush spiritual experiences, then dude, like, go for that. I'm all about that. I'm all about that. I support that 100%. It just didn't work for me that way. It's taken me more time to really chip away at virtually all of this, to be honest with you. And I think that there's probably more of you that are like me, that are part of that slow learning, educational, or dense-headed variety like me. So that's why I make these videos. I hope that helps. So let's go ahead and move on into this. In the 7th step, right, it says, so when ready, that's assuming you're ready, you're willing to have God remove all these defects of character. And the things you're not willing to let go of, we ask him to help us be willing, right? So this is the 7-step prayer. It says, when ready, we say something like this. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. So I want to encourage you to say that again with me real quick, because that's the 7th step. You know, it happens quick, right? We just talked about the 6th step. It's very, it's like a readiness of heart or readiness of mind. And the 7th step is literally that prayer. So say it again with me here. Say, my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. Isn't that beautiful? Aren't you so glad that 4th and 5th step are over? I mean, wow, right? The 7th step is so cool. I mean, at this point, this is where I really started to feel like I'm definitely above spiritual water now. And I really felt like I was becoming a new person with this. You know, I had no idea that patience and all these things, that how important they were, that resentment was deadly for me, that it was literally fatal. So, you know, some of us, or actually most all of us, come in here with some of these character defects that are way, way off. And you'll see it. You'll see it in your 4th step. If you're honest and thorough with yourself, you're going to see, like, you know, man, I'm a super envious person. I am super freaking envious. I'm envious of the whole world, and I'm mad about it. You know? So then, you know, if you start practicing gratitude for, you know, I'm grateful I have all 10 toes. I'm grateful that my legs work. I'm grateful that, you know, after all my years of smoking, I don't have some kind of lung complications. I'm grateful that I didn't overdose. I'm grateful that I didn't, you know, wind up with alcohol poisoning and blah, 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 blah. I'm grateful I haven't, you know, whatever the thing. I mean, like, these kinds of things. It takes you out of the material world very quick and into a spiritual world that will help you not be so envious. And that's just one example. You know, I encourage you, look into these spiritual words. I got a little journal that my sponsor gave me, like it's a nice little leather bound thing that he knew that I would use, because I like stuff like that, is what it is. And so I started researching these words, and it would be like gratitude, and I would write all these things about what gratitude was and how to become more grateful, and different spiritual textbooks or religious textbooks that talked about that. I mean, researched every single one of these words. Honesty, all of them. It was really important to me, and looked into all these different ways to how to practice patience. And there's books on every single one of these things. There's books on that you can find. The greatest thing in the world is what Hal Vorse gave me, my old sponsor. Rest in peace, man. The old Dr. Vorse gave me that book, and he signed something in it. And it, to give you a spoiler, the greatest, the greatest thing in the world is love. And so if I'm acting out of love, if I'm thinking in a loving way, and I'm loving on other people by my deeds, thoughts, actions, whatever, every way possible, I'm fulfilling all of these character assets, if you will, rather than the character defects, as we were talking about. I'm fulfilling all of them at once. So if I'm looking at ways that I can contribute with my time, with my resources, then I am being charitable, right? By making a free podcast that takes tons of time, this is me doing charity in a sense. It's not, it's me giving away everything that I've been working on, for years, for fun and for free, because I don't want to be greedy and keep all this stuff to myself. That's selfish, right? So to give it all away for fun and for free, that's a charitable act. You see all these things. It's very, very rich. There's a very abundant world. A lot of information, a lot of different acts, a lot that we can learn and apply to our character here. I mean, you're talking about changing your character in a godly way. There's a guy named Jim Rohn from the 80s. There's a YouTube thing on here called, I think it's called Cultivating Unshakable Character, something like that. You can just look up Jim Rohn character, and you'll see this 6.5 hour long video where he talks about character and character building. It is incredible. There's so many resources out there that have to do with building character. And it's not necessarily self-help. It's about getting better, building value in yourself. The more value we have in ourselves, the more effective we can do God's will and help others and help ourselves and help the people that love us. The better character we have, the more it's just, you become a more valuable person to the world. And I think that's really in the next step that we talk about that. Actually, I see it right here. It says, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. To me, this 7th step really maximizes that. How effective I can be by how well my character assets are built up, And I can get a pretty long way with this stuff by myself. But again, just like all these other steps, I gotta have God. Gotta have God involved in this process to really get to where I want to be. And where I want to be is where He wants me. And that's a beautiful thing to have that thought today. So we've all got so much growth to do. There's so much meat on the bone here. Step 6 and 7 are beautiful steps. Beautiful, beautiful steps. So, I encourage you to take your time on these two, because these are just infinitely deep personal growth steps where, I can't even begin to tell you of all the resources that are available to this. So by all means, seek and find. If you're, check out some books, buy some books or something involved in the character asset that you need to build, or the character assets, if you have multiple things that you need to get better at, and learn more about it. And you will just be blown away, and so will all the people that love you. So I'm going to conclude it there. It's truly been a pleasure. I love this step. It's such a blessing that we get to share this together. I hope that it's helping you. If it is, by all means, share it with your friend, share it with your sponsor, your sponsee, or whoever. Because I just want to get this message out to people. Because the big book, can be kind of complicated and kind of vague. Like in step 6 and 7 here, it can whiz by you so fast where you almost don't even realize that you did it if you're just skimming through the book real fast. So, by all means, if it's helpful, share it so we can help people out here. And if you have any comments or anything like that, by all means, you can always email me at drbenaa.com or at gmail.com. Leave me a comment, whatever you want to do. But by all means, I'm so happy that you're here. You guys are such a blessing to me. It means a lot. And I'll see you in the next episode. We'll start talking about steps 8 and 9. All right.